Hello, I'm Dr. Chris.
And I'm Alan Chatney.
And this is the Source Points podcast, where we talk about all things geoscience, oil industry related, and maybe some off-topic stuff like movies. But the last time we were talking about movies, that was before the Oscars, and now we're like a month after the Oscars.
It is highly embarrassing that we've been so lackadaisical on getting these podcasts out, but I feel like we've been incredibly busy.
Yes, we actually.
And we've had a lot on the go getting ready for a major new technology test, actually, so we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, of course, we're not going to talk too much online about this, but it is, suffice to say, it's been busy and why we're late. But this is the fifth podcast that we've done. So
is this number 5?
This is number 5.
Okay,
I track the numbers. I number them by what we do, not the date.
Now, it's been interesting. I've talked to quite a few people who have listened to this podcast, and the feedback has been pretty good overall. Some people saying they go a little bit long.
Oh, that reminds me. I will set a timer so we don't go a little bit long.
We can't go long because people are saying, look, I want to get through the whole thing, and I can't get through the whole thing, so we're going to shorten this up a little bit.
Well, if you're listening, we are a little over 8 seconds in, so don't turn it off now.
Yeah, we're more than 8 seconds in, but that's okay. Good. Well, we got a bunch of things to talk about. What's on your list?
Well, what just happened yesterday? That was Kinder Morgan. I don't know if they've stopped. They've put a halt on. What was it?
Kinder Morgan put out. Well, two things happened yesterday. First of all, Reed won the Masters, which was interesting. But Kinder Morgan announced something that should not surprise anybody that's in business: a halt to all unnecessary spending, all non-essential spending, on the Trans Mountain expansion. This is basically a business reacting rationally and behaving normally in the face of absurd political...
anti-constitutional.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible what's going on in Canada. It's been going on for a while, and I think this project has somehow just seems to crystallize everybody's attention again. But it happened with Energy East. It happened to a lesser extent with Keystone XL. It happened with Northern Gateway, and it will continue to happen for as long as we let people who are sort of alarmist activists, often foreign-funded activists, take this annoying position that they take.
Well, I think it possibly sets even a worse precedent in that what's next to attempt to shut down? I mean, there's probably sessions with people sitting there right now thinking, all right, we got the pipeline. Railroads next.
Well, it's crazy because there are documents that have been made public from some of these. I think 350 was one of them, where they were actually actively encouraging Canadian youth to get arrested. Okay. Well, when you get arrested and you get a criminal record, that affects you for the rest of your life, and you're doing that at the behest of a foreign-funded entity who's seeking to obstruct Canadian oil. Well, that is a terrible state of affairs.
Well, we just had a member of Parliament arrested for such actions, as if it's a small thing to do to block a federally approved project that would benefit all Canadians.
Yeah, I mean these are the original Trans Mountain line has been there for decades. It's operated safely. The Americans are moving tankers through their waters. They've got pipelines under construction, and I think maybe there's some people that are just laughing at us and just saying these people are so caught up in their own nonsense that somehow we can't escape ourselves, and it's absolutely bonkers. When you look at the differential, Chris. You say, because our only customer is the United States right now, we're effectively losing on the order of $43 million a day. Okay, depending on exactly what the differential is and how you measure that, but it just rounded out $2 million an hour. That's I mean, in any other this should be the cause of massive public outcry across the country, and yet it's not. And meanwhile, in the East, we're importing 700,000 barrels of oil a day from dictatorships, places that aren't very nice, instead of doing ourselves a favor. So It's terrible, terrible, and somehow, hopefully, we can find a way to fix it.
Can we lay this at the feet of a certain leader of the country who?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I mean, this is, he was early on saying, "Oh, we need to phase out the oil sands," whatever that means. He's this sort of apologism and this kind of trying to virtue signal to the left wing and to the elite. It's not helping anybody. It's just nonsense.
Mind-bogglingly wrong that we're such a small player, and it's not just shooting ourselves in the foot. It's shooting ourselves in the foot, the leg.
Yeah, it's blowing
the
our
arm.
own head off. Yeah, it's terrible. And the thing is, there are those maybe who listen. Maybe we have a listener who's not a pro-oil person, but so maybe they would accuse us of just saying, "Oh, you're just shills for the oil industry," or something like that. But the fact of the matter is, oil, natural gas, these products are amazing. They're the cause of our modern prosperity. Even the protesters protesting oil are using oil to protest oil.
Yeah, there's no simple solution to this. There was a podcast I was listening to, and it's sort of people getting mad at cars, but they can only get mad at cars because they've already solved a giant list of problems, that started off with like getting food to people's houses or something. It was like,
well, and the thing is, globally, there is a ton more energy available through oil and gas. We ought to be delivering that as rapidly as we can to the several billion people who are having trouble making ends meet every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was reading an article yesterday that talked about, many millions of deaths every year caused by internal smoke, indoor smoke. These are people who are cooking with wood. Seriously, they're cooking with dung, with wood, with charcoal.
Burning wood is like on the scale of bad is like number one, because you're not just releasing, you're releasing carcinogens in your house and everybody in your community, and
particulate matter and so forth. But I love a wood fire. But you're
try
absolutely right. The rational part of me says, you know what? Really, we ought not to be burning a wood fire if we're concerned about pollution and real pollution, particulate matters, and all these other sort of.
That's again because the problems, quote unquote, problems that say natural gas have solved are so far in the past that people can't see that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny what you take for granted. Today in our office, this is late breaking news, Explor's office doesn't have water today. Apparently there's a leak in the building, we're told, and so we don't have running water. And you think, it wasn't that long ago. Arguably, I mean, I know that one of my great uncles didn't have running water in his house until after the Second World War.
My mother grew up in a small town in northern Alberta. It was either near Cold Lake or part of Cold Lake, and she did not have running water.
Yeah,
as a child.
That's when it was called really Cold Lake.
Yes,
because you didn't have energy. But it's a strange thing that we've all forgotten about. Or we haven't all. Many people just aren't aware of how profound the progress has been, because we have abundant energy. We can take it anywhere. It's an incredible thing. So,
well, what I like to, I sort of sometimes placate people that I talk to, and is like, I understand that one day, quite soon, or maybe not, oil will be replaced by, I don't know, unicorn farts and happy dust. And that probably will happen. Something amazing will come along, because it always does. But right now, this is the way things are. We're keeping the world running.
Yeah, it's funny though, because the magic stuff is already around. It's nuclear power.
Oh,
but people don't like nuclear power. But if you really were serious about eliminating that transition to a more modern economy, it'd be nuclear is what you would go for.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think in terms of the energy future, I have no doubt that oil and gas will continue to be central for decades, if not centuries.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, people might have said a while ago, well, geez, there's not going to be any coal around, and yet we're burning more coal today on the planet than any time in our history. In fact, it's it's almost
Well,
like a logarithmic scale.
Certain places on the planet, of course.
Well, Alberta uses a lot of coal. Of course, the current government's trying to change that to the detriment of many coal mining communities.
Yeah.
But I always talk about the Chinese are building tons of coal power generation and tons, and they're burning a massive amount of coal. So,
I think there was a statistic I saw once that if oil runs out, there's still going to be plenty of coal left to do what needs to be done.
yeah, and oil's not going to run out.
No.
The Bahraini's just found another 80 billion barrels. And
Was it Bahrain?
Bahrain, yeah.
Okay.
And basically the Middle East hasn't even started effectively looking for the unconventionals in the shale. They, here in North America, we're effectively mining the source rock and extracting oil and gas from what used to be considered the source rock for a conventional reservoir. There's so much oil in the Middle East. They still produce out of conventional reservoirs. They still have more to find and produce. And now what we're starting to see is the transition to finding those unconventional source rock. Those will be immense in the Middle East. We haven't even started. So there are trillions and trillions of cubic feet of natural gas left to find and produce, and many, many billions of barrels of oil. We're in good shape for a very long time on this planet. And the good news is CO2 is going to go up. Plants are going to grow quicker. Life is going to flourish. We'll be more prosperous and more healthy, and that's the facts. The weather will continue to change. And so,
that's one thing I've noticed about the climate change debate is that it's progressively changed to just be climate change. It's no longer global warming. It's now a blanket statement that can be backed up by anything.
Yeah. Well, it changed.
Yeah,
I must be right.
Yeah, exactly. It's absolutely.
You can never be wrong. It's changing. Look,
and I mean, I get it on the scientific end of things, but it's now just such a blanket statement that it does. Like, I don't know how anybody can look at that and say.
Well, I was saying to my sons, facetiously here over the weekend, my youngest son, I said, it's a good thing that we had this global warming thing, because can you imagine how cold it would be if we didn't have it? And I was sort of half joking because, of course, as little as sort of 15,000 years ago, which is a blink of an eye in geologic time, we here sitting in Calgary would be under a couple of kilometers of ice. Think about that amount of ice. It's unbelievable. That is real climate change. What's happened over the last sort of 10 to 15,000 years, sea level rose about 100 meters, 120 meters in that time frame. Continent-sized sheets of ice sliding off and melting into the ocean. It's unbelievable. It's just
the doom and gloom is a lot more exciting to palate. I would say.
Well, it definitely sells advertising on news stations, and that's troubling to me that we have this kind of mob rule journalism.
Maybe it's always been like that.
Maybe it has been. You're right. Maybe it has been. It's just more evident today with an abundance of information and media channels. Hey, we're using one right now.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And we are now at least 13 minutes in.
Okay, so we should subject change it?
Well, I have a sheet here from a
back in yesteryear when we
well,
did our last podcast.
Yeah, we tried to do another one.
You know what? Let's switch to movies here real quick.
Okay.
Then we can kind of wind it up. One movie that I would highly recommend you see is The Death of Stalin.
Oh, I've seen advertisements
and
for that.
What a hilarious thing. One of these sort of dark, quirky comedies about a subject that's actually quite dark, which was the Stalinist regime, the regime of Stalin, and they have guys like Steve Buscemi playing some of his henchmen. It's kind of neat. They just use their normal accents. They don't sort of fake a Russian accent.
Hello, how's it going?
No, they just speak like
as Comrade Stalin.
Yeah, they speak as they would normally speak, and it's we went and saw it. It was a good laugh and a great movie. Highly recommend that one if you can find time to go.
I've seen advertisements, and because I saw advertisements, I watched a documentary on YouTube about the death of Stalin, which just made me, I don't want to say laugh, but it's amazing that they just didn't. It was like, oh, just let him die.
Yeah,
which was probably a good thing because Stalin wasn't a very nice guy.
He was definitely the opposite of a nice guy.
Yes, very opposite.
Yeah.
I was wondering how they would have handled that in a humorous fashion, you know.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Especially in today. Like, could you handle like the death of Hitler in the same sort of humorous fashion?
Oh man, no. I don't know.
Or is it just because people for some odd reason have a soft spot for communism that they were able to do this?
I don't know. There was just so much that was so atrocious about that regime, but they managed to produce a pretty good
All right.
a pretty good comedy.
We should probably note that
enjoyable.
we are also not sponsored by whoever's made that movie.
Absolutely not. No,
This is
we have no sponsorship whatsoever. So we're independent in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Anything else?
Oh, I was just going to say with the last thing was Notley upping the ante. Like that was a long time ago, and that had to do with the Prime Minister, the Premier of Alberta. It was the wine embargo, BC wine embargo that had just happened. Like that's how long ago that this sheet of paper was. We didn't talk about it in the last podcast.
I think we did actually, Chris.
Oh, did we?
I'm really sure we did. Yeah, really sure we did. Yeah, but that seems to have faded a little bit. And now I think the stakes are just so much higher. Yesterday, immediately after the announcement from Kinder Morgan, Notley went on and sort of said, look, maybe we'll invest in Kinder Morgan. That is absolutely the wrong direction to take. That is government should stay out of business and get out of business's way. That idea, we'll directly support a business. That's not the right.
Well, the United Conservatives, I can't remember his name now. He supported it. He has initially supported that thinking out loud statement by Notley.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't catch that, but if that's true, I'd be somewhat concerned. Government buying into business really doesn't work out that well, generally speaking, and it's not what's needed. The reason that Kinder Morgan is canceling all non-essential spending until further notice isn't because the government isn't investing in Kinder Morgan. Mm-hmm. It's canceling it because the regulatory regime here is such that you can't actually guarantee to your shareholders that you can get the project built. Mm-hmm. That's why it's government needs to get out of the way, not get into it more. Mm-hmm. It's very clear in my mind.
When's the next federal election?
Oh, not soon enough. My goodness. We need to set up an election countdown clock on all fronts and see if we can get some change here. So,
well, I think Mr. Trudeau might end up doing some photo ops that could change his current popularity, which I believe is actually fairly low.
It's a funny world, right? Elections are funny things. They're very, very difficult to predict. I don't rule out the notion that despite his atrocious record and sort of proven incompetence, he may very well get back in again.
He's so good looking.
Hey,
that was in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Feels over reels, man.
He dances really well, as far as I could tell from his India trip, which I think we somehow paid for. But anyway, yeah, terrible stuff. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're now at about 19-minute mark.
Let's wrap it up.
Wrap it up, or is there anything, any entertainment stuff to talk about, or is the Oscars so far in the past that we can't cover it?
Yeah. No. It was interesting. Of course, we just talked about the death of Stalin, that movie. But in terms of Oscars, I've got to say I was pretty disappointed to see The Shape of Water win. They're being, of course, taken to court because of this.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's going to end up. You never know how to take these lawsuits, whether to take them seriously or not. But, I just don't think it was the best movie. I think Three Billboards Over, Ebbing, Missouri was a better film. Get Out, I thought, was a better film. Of course, it won Best Original Screenplay. That was great. Great to see Peele win that. But I was not taken with Shape of Water. It was a well executed film. It was well done. But I just don't think it was. It
may just be
picture.
One of those winners that disappears in history.
Yeah, it may.
All right. Well, I guess we should wrap that up. Wait, did we do this? Did we do the sound? Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah, we always do the sound at the end.
Yeah.
All right, let's roll it. Until next time, everyone. I'm Alan Chatney.
Oh, I Oops. So once again, this is the Source Points podcast. I'm Dr. Chris.
And I'm Alan Chatney, and my thing is not working. Oh, here it is.
There we. Oh, is that the start of it?
Yeah. No, it's the end of it.
All right. Well. All right. Till next time, keep rocking.
All right. See you next time.